Get started. All right. If you have any questions, as usual, post them down in the comments. I will keep my eye on those. And hopefully this should be a fun, kind of interesting lesson. I thought I would try to teach things in a different way today. I just had this interesting idea. A friend of mine was like, oh, why don't you, like, you could teach people how to teach their dog English. So we'll get to that. Looks like we're rolling over here. All right, I am Drew Badger, the founder of EnglishAnyone.com and the English Fluency Guide. Welcome to another live video here on YouTube. Today this will be kind of a funny, different kind of video, but it hopefully will remind people to think in a different way. So I'm always trying to do this and to remind you, like as a very simple thing at the beginning of this video, if you're trying to teach, especially a dog, like you're trying to teach a dog a trick or something, you don't want to give it some textbooks. You really want to make the information clear. And so we'll talk a little bit about that in this video. It shouldn't be that long of a video, but if people do have questions, I will hang around. So I will stay longer and ask or answer any questions people might have. But it looks like we are rolling here, and we'll get started. So I thought about doing this video. A friend of mine, I was asking him, hey, what should I talk about like in a video or whatever? And he was like, hey, he happened to have this book. So this is Teaching Your Dog Maori. So like from New Zealand, like New Zealand, New Zealanders might be interested in doing this. And I mean, it's kind of a cute little book. I'll just show you the inside of it, like pictures of dogs and teaching people stuff. But I mean, it's not all that understandable, which is kind of the problem with it. But we'll talk about more how we can help people actually learn and get fluent and use these same ideas on yourself. So for me, even if I might be able to, if I just draw a quick image here of all the things I could do to learn a language and try to understand something. So humans, people, we have a wide range of things. This is not going to be a very scientific looking graph, but I think you should get the idea of it. So we could basically learn by just seeing something down here using our senses. So we'll put like a little eyeball over here, some eyelashes, or your ear, you're able to hear some information or touch something with your hand. So these are our senses over here. And as we get a little bit more refined with things, we can also use just basic contrasts. So when we're trying to teach someone a new language, we would have, especially if we want to teach that language in the language we're teaching. So if you think about especially teaching a dog a language, you can't use any translations to teach a dog unless you know how to speak, I guess, the dog's language. But the point is, it's easy to show something like up and down. So we can learn a contrast like this because we're able to compare different things, or at least two different things. So that's this maybe slightly higher level up here. So we have our base senses where we can see something. So I might learn a color, like the color blue, or the color black, or this color kind of, I don't know what this color is. It's a kind of green, I guess. But it should be pretty easy to understand if you can see these things. But the point is, it becomes easier as we're able to contrast these things with something else. So if I have a blue marker and a black marker, you see that both of them are markers, but you can tell the difference in the vocabulary by what's different. So blue marker here and black marker over here. So same basic idea. And as we go up, we could get, like as I mentioned, getting like translations of something. So we'll put like translate. So getting translations of something. This is where we start needing to use another language to teach ourselves a language. So if I'm learning Chinese and I'm learning Chinese through English, then I'm using translations. to do that. And of course, the problem is that when I'm learning Chinese through English, I'm going to think in English when I try to speak Chinese. So we really want to understand things as best as possible. Of course, I could get explanations and translations, definitions, that kind of thing. We'll just say define, or I get like an explanation in a textbook, like we're gonna get like the logic of I don't know, like a textbook explanation, something like that. So as we go up, like you can see how, and this isn't like it's not like a specific order, it's just more like the kinds of things that a person could do to learn a language, and a dog is basically stuck down here. All right, so instead of having, you know, like a textbook or using translations, something that you know, whatever you might be able to use, I recommend you do not use these things unless you absolutely have to. So the goal first should be trying to understand everything in the language the same way we would teach a dog. All right, so if I'm trying to teach a dog a language like English, and even just for regular people, you know, if you're a native Spanish speaker, maybe you have to speak with your dog in Spanish, but your dog would learn the specific commands like sit or shake or whatever things, you know, stop, that you're teaching the dog to do. But those same things, they become much faster and easier when the dog can easily understand what you're saying. And we make things easier to understand when we can use these basic things down here, like having a contrast, like I'm showing you a contrast here, versus, you know, again, like trying to use a textbook or a linguistic explanation about why we do something. So the dog isn't going to understand that. And in the same way, your brain is going to have a harder time understanding things if you try to give it these more difficult things to help it learn. So it is possible to learn this way, but it becomes more difficult to speak. And really the whole point is, just like a dog, we want the dog to react quickly when we're, you know, if we tell the dog to stop doing something or to go or to sit down or whatever the thing is we're saying, we want the dog to react quickly to that information or that command, just like we want our own brain to do that too. So we don't want to think about something, a person explains something to us, and we have to think and translate in our heads, and then we start speaking. So the basic idea of this video is that it's a reminder, and this is a reminder for myself as well, that I should be trying as best as possible to learn everything in the language I'm learning. So if it's a dog learning English, then we have to make that language clear. And so trying to compare different things and show the dog, like, yes, this is correct and this is not. And I'm not like a professional dog trainer. I used to walk dogs actually when I was back in high school. That was a lot of fun. And so I could, you know, kind of talk with different dogs and talk with their owners about how they're training them, that kind of thing. But most of the time when I'm just talking with them, like, the dog wants to understand what you're doing. So the dog is trying to follow you and understand what your commands are. But if you're not very clear, then obviously it's going to be more difficult. All right, so just talking a lot to your dog, just like if I start talking to you a lot in Chinese, unless you're a native Chinese speaker, you're probably not going to understand me. All right, so we want to keep things as simple as possible. We really want to make sure that we can understand things in the language as much as possible. So I want to see if anybody has any particular things that they're struggling with. It could be particular grammar points or something else they'd like to focus on in this video, and I can show you how these principles are applied. So rather than me trying to think of, I could easily, but if there are specific things you'd like to know about, this is your time now to ask them. And that way I can help you and do my best to prove that this is actually the way that's going to help you use the vocabulary when you need it in actual conversations. All right, so let me go back and look at chat. If you have specific questions about grammar points or whatever, this day is like a little bit more of a free for all. This is a really good expression here, a free for all. So a free for all just means you can do whatever you like, and if you have questions about particular things, I can help you understand that. But the main idea of this kind of intro part of the video here is to remind yourself that we are the dog we are trying to teach. So if we if we make things unclear for ourselves, then we're not going to react well in conversations. So we really need to make sure we understand things very well. And part of that is just making the language clear. But the rest of that, obviously, when you're training a dog, there's a lot of repetition there. But it's a little bit different for us because we get a little bit bored with the repetition. We can learn things in different ways, see them in different contexts, and understand them better. So often with basic things like seeing a color, you would maybe see that a few times and you would recognize that color name and probably be able to remember it. But other things, as they get a little bit more difficult, they require more review, more understanding to help you make sure you really get those things. All right, so let me look at chat, see if anybody has any questions about this, but it's a pretty simple idea. I'm really, again, just trying to get people thinking in a different way and reminding yourself to keep it simple when you're learning, because the goal is really understanding everything in English if you can, rather than using your native language or trying to translate things in your head. All right, so Adriano says, hi, everyone. Paris says hi. Musa says hi. Raul says hello. Annette, nice to see you there. Hello, Drew. Greets from Wisconsin. Or that says greats. Greats from Wisconsin. You mean like G-R-E-E-T, like a greeting? Greeting from Wisconsin. Smale says, hi, great teacher. Amuz says, nice to wash you. Oh my goodness, you're gonna wash me? There's a couple of spelling errors or something in these first comments here. You guys are making me nervous over here. Adriana says, let's share this video. Yes, please do. If you know other people who would like to learn English and speak English without hesitating or translating, this is the way to do it. So you really want to help your brain understand things the same way you would teach a dog and keeping it simple. So if you can't use any of these other things to teach a dog, you really have to be very simple and clear with the language and make sure that the dog absolutely understands what you're asking for or what you're angry about or whatever. So the dog can actually read our emotions very well, and so when we're trying to explain something, they can easily tell if we're happy or sad or something like that. But we can use that to our advantage to help them understand. Let's see, Salma Woods is really a very good book. Yes, it's an interesting book, but it's basically like the kind of funny thing about this book is that it's the idea itself from like a marketing perspective is clever. Like, okay, teach your dog Maori, but it's actually like an example of the wrong way to teach. So I didn't want to like talk too much about it, but like if we have, let's say we'll kind of use this book as an example. So it's obviously it's for helping people learn some specific phrases, but it's breaking the rules of this. So one of those would be understanding things through simple contrasts. So I haven't looked carefully at the book. I've looked through a couple of different things, but it looks like it's some cute pictures like this. Then we get the English up here, then we get a translation down here, and then a pronunciation of whatever that is. So if we want to say get down, we say, let's see, the pronunciation is heke, I guess, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. But you don't really understand what that means or like which of these, is it or heke? That refers to like up or down. So let's see if there's also another example here that's like get up or something. So that would be helpful. So if we can see, like here's turn right, let's see if there's turn left in here. Oh, okay, here's turn left. So this is a better example of something. So turn left is, let's see, huri, faktate maui. So that's turn left, and then, okay, so now we can see like left versus right, and we can understand it a little bit more in context, although there's still a lot of information here. That's pretty complicated to say turn right or left, but the only thing that's different between these two, let's see, because I'm going to pronounce it poorly. So huri fakate mato. Hopefully I don't get in trouble. I'm going to say some bad words on this if I'm saying this incorrectly. So again, huri, and then fakate mato, and this is fakate maui. So that's the difference between these two, like turn right versus turn left. The only thing different is like toe versus we. And so that's the kind of thing that your brain would get excited about if it can understand those differences, the same way we can have black marker and blue marker, and you can see the difference between these two. Your brain is trying to think, what's different. Just like those, like you've probably seen these little images for little kids that have, it's usually 2 pictures, and then it will have something in this picture and almost the similar thing in this other picture here, but then maybe 1 or 2 things will be different. So it's like find the difference between these 2 images. So that's how our brain works. We're trying to understand things, and if we can understand them all in English, so it would be even better, like for the purposes of helping you understand Maori, to show those things on the same page, so we could see like what is the difference between like, oh, like mato and maui. All right, see if anything else in here is. So here we have like, whoa, so here's go right. So we have go right and turn right. So that's interesting. So we can see, let's see, where is turn right? So turn right is huri fakate mato, and then we have haere. A haere. So haere is like a go, but I still don't. It's still not clear what piece is meaning what thing. All right. So you can see if I'm still confused about it. So I'm getting these examples. Like here is a phrase in Maori that helps you understand something, even if it's a basic thing like turn right. I still don't have any confidence using it because I don't really understand what I'm saying. All right. So if I'm using that to a dog, the dog is really going to be listening to what's different between these things and hopefully getting like, okay, like the master said, like, where you go right, like right and left. And so we're trying to make that very clear to the dog, like, look, right, like that way, right, left. Kind of the same way you would teach a child, but making sure it's clear that you know what you're saying. So like this kind of thing, this is the typical way that people teach languages. And it becomes confusing when you don't actually understand how the pieces work. Let's see if there's anything else. So like stay is like nowhere, stay. And no means a cow or elongate any vowel with a macron. Oh, that's interesting. Sit is no, wait a minute. Stay is now. Oh, that's interesting. It's the same command for sit and stay. Huh, interesting. Enoho, or enower, and enower again for sit and stay. Anyway, I think you guys get the idea, but hopefully it should be making a bit more sense about when we're learning something, the same way we really want to keep it very simple around this area here, using your senses, using contrasts to help you understand things in English rather than understanding them through a different language or your native language. All right, Dinku says, good morning, sir, and Syed says, hi, teacher. It's a captivating thing to know how to teach your dog. Yes, so remember, like, just like your brain wants to understand, the dog wants to understand too. Usually because the dog gets a treat when the dog does a good job, or you pat the dog, or you show the dog some love, and your brain works the same way. So when our brain can understand something, we get those aha moments where we feel good, like we've solved a puzzle, and like that actual good feeling, it makes us, the whole point is it makes us feel good. So we want to get more of those things and understand the language even better. Abdo says, could you borrow me this book? I have a crocodile teacher. So could you borrow me this book? Here you would say, could you lend me this book? That's a good example of like understanding the contrast between 2 different things here. So if I have one person, let's see, we'll just say this is a librarian. I'll put a bunch of books over here. These are supposed to be some books. And the librarian here's a desk right here, and I am coming over. So the librarian is going to lend me the book. And I am kind of receiving it. As I do that, I am borrowing the book. Borrow the book. All right? And then another contrast with this, instead of lend and borrow, so the librarian lends the book, I borrow the book. We also have, if we're talking about renting, so if somebody is renting, like renting a book or renting something, some equipment or something like that, this is where you're paying money for that, all right? So to rent something, like in that case, you would just say, like, I am renting or they are renting to me. So when you're paying, it's the same word, but when you're borrowing or lending, you're talking about like whose perspective it is. So you have a kind of logical scene here. You can understand, oh, the librarian is lending the book and I am borrowing the book, all right? Or if you want to ask someone else to do something, hey, could you lend me that book, or could you lend me a hand? So could you help me out? Lend me a hand. Could you lend me a hand? This is a casual conversational way of saying, could you help me? Could you lend me a hand for a minute? It's perfectly fine to say, could you help me, but could you lend me a hand, all right? So notice what I'm doing here. I want to show you a difference between something, make it very clear, but also give you some naturally varied review where we're talking about a slightly different way of using a word. So not just repeating it again and again like lend, 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 because me repeating something doesn't really help you understand it better, all right? Seeing different and varied examples do help you understand that better, okay? So those different examples will help you understand things better than mere repetition, than just repetition by itself. So someone is lending me someone, like someone might lend me a marker, or lend me a book, or lend me some help, lend me a hand. Or I might borrow a book, or can I borrow something from you? Can I borrow something from you? Whatever. So if you're asking someone and you want them to do something, you can use either of these words, but just make it clear why you're like, why you're, or kind of who is the subject here? Who are you talking about? So can I borrow a book? May I borrow a book? You will hear both of those. Can I borrow a book? And may I borrow a book? Or you can ask someone else to do something, and that would be like, would you? So would you lend me a book? Would you lend me a book? All right. Would you lend me a book, or something like that? So these are two basic ways of saying that, lend and borrow. Right. But yes, if you want to teach a crocodile, I bet a crocodile even would be even more difficult to teach. But I bet it's something is possible. All right. It says the color of your shirt is light green. Light green, really? Yeah, I mean it's some kind of green. Olympia, nice to see you there. Hi, like my amazing teacher. I was talking English to my cat. Glad to hear it. Yeah, so people will speak with their animals. They will do that naturally. But if you actually help the animal understand what you're doing, I mean, it would be interesting to actually do a lesson where I'm teaching a dog and see how well I could help it understand the English, how quickly I could do that. I bet I could do that pretty fast. I don't have a dog, unfortunately, but that would be interesting to do. Pelpa says, hello, teacher. I hope you are doing well. I'm leaving, oh, you mean living in California, Living. Thank you for taking your time to teach us. It's my pleasure. Sadiq says, I'm exciting. You would say, I am excited. So I am excited. I am scared. I am interested. You're talking about yourself whenever watching your lesson. So Miguel says, good afternoon, teacher. I have a question. Is it true what Donald Trump said about immigrants eating the pets and dogs and cats of the residents of Springfield? I don't know. I'm not a resident of Springfield, but the way to check that would be to look at police records and say what they say. I don't know, I guess. I don't know. I mean, I live in Nagasaki, Japan, and I hear news about all kinds of things, but I am pretty much all news for me is suspect. When I hear anything, I'm just like, yeah, I don't know if that's true or not. I would have to get confirmation. It's actually an interesting thing mentioning this news and thinking about how we come to information. And so when we're thinking about something like, let's say I hear some news like people are eating pets or whatever. Let's say I hear that. If I hear that from one source, like a friend of mine just told me something, and even if my friend, I don't know, he's like a smart guy or knows something, if he tells me something, I might think, okay, that's, you know, I still don't, I have no reason to believe that yes or no. I just, you know, somebody says something to me, I don't know if that's true or not. But if I hear that from like another person and a completely different source, So not like a group of my friends are all telling me the same thing. Like my enemy told me the same thing as well. As an example, like I don't think I have any enemies, but like let's say someone I don't know, like didn't know at all, or you know they have completely different ideas than me, something like that. If they also told me the same thing, then you know I would be more inclined to believe it. All right, and this is an interesting thing about language as well. Like often people will hear something one time and think they know what it means or think they know the truth about something, but often it's not. Or, you know, like news might be telling you something, but maybe it's not actually, like they're giving you a particular way of looking at something rather than trying to give you factual information. So if I say like this is a blue marker, lots of people could correct that and we could all, you know, we could check that information pretty easily. But yeah, so I have no idea what's happening in many places in the United States. But I would caution anyone, like the more information you hear, and this is kind of getting, it seems to be getting worse, where more people they're listening to like one particular kind of news and that's all they listen to, or they have their maybe group of friends or something. And so this group of people will say like, yes, something is happening, and this other group of people will say, no, it's not. And like usually there's some kind of truth, whatever that is, but you want to be able to get lots of different perspectives to understand something. In the same way that you want to hear lots of different examples of vocabulary to really understand it very well. All right, let's see. Canero says, your t-shirt is sage green. Oh, okay. Well, I guess that settles it. So here, this is another interesting thing. Like one person says light green, another person says sage green. I guess I don't know. I didn't look at the name of the color, but that's an interesting question. Let's see. Bogdan says hi there. Tarek says good morning, sir. And how do I teach my students a grammar point with naturally varied review? The point is to pick something. First of all, they're kind of two phases with this one, or two steps. The first one is to make sure they just understand what the grammar point is, and often if you can't make it clear, like here's like a very simple thing is like the present versus the past. So if I'm talking about something today, if I want to illustrate this, so just like I'm showing you here, I want to make sure people understand the difference. You can give me a specific grammar point if you'd like help with that. But if we understand the context here, so this is let's see, like just yesterday, and this is today. And if I understand like right now, like let's say I have a little card of a person skiing. So I have like just a little image or a flashcard or something of a person skiing. So here's a little hat there, and he's got the ski poles and the little ski boots over here like that. So it's supposed to be a person skiing. I should do something simpler, but if I take this and then I'm teaching the students and they understand like today is happening right now and this was yesterday. So I can actually show them a calendar and they can understand the context. So I can take a card like this and put it today and say like he is skiing. Okay, so he is, or this person, like, let's see, we'll just say he, because that's shorter. So he is skiing. He is skiing. And if I move that same card over here, I'm just changing the time, so they understand the context, they understand the situation, but they don't need me to explain that in whatever your native language is. So I have the card here, he is skiing. I move the card over here, he was skiing. Okay, I could even do like, do the future, he will be, something like that, just showing an example. All right, so that's one example. Then I would do the same thing with maybe some other grammar points or even just some other examples for this specific grammar point until they can anticipate what I'm going to do. So if I have maybe 10 different cards like this that just show a different action, like eat, just like eat dinner or something. So if they understand specifically what eat dinner is, but now I want to help them understand how to say that in different times, then again, they're looking at the context here. I move the card here. Today, so right now, he is eating dinner, or he was eating dinner, or he ate dinner yesterday. It just depends on the specific grammar point I'm doing. But as they get more examples of this, this is not about you having them repeat after you. It's you just showing them lots of varied examples and helping them understand what that is, the same way I would teach a dog, all right? So if I have like ball, if I'm going to show, like teach a dog what a ball is, like the typical way to do that would be just hold up a ball and say ball, ball. But a dog is thinking like, well, what exactly does that mean? Like, what do you mean by ball? Instead, it's better to actually show a dog many different balls, and the idea of what a ball is, the dog it would make sense to them. Like, here's a baseball and basketball and a football and other things like that, a soccer ball or whatever, and the dog through that varied review would understand what ball means rather than me just holding something up. Because if I just say like, I don't know, I hold up something like, what's a good example? Suito, 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 suito. If I continue, even if I show you what this is, and I continue saying the word over and over and over again, the repetition doesn't help you. But if I show you some different examples of something, in this case, the word I'm teaching you is like a bottle, like a container, like a water bottle. If I showed you some other water bottles and I kept saying suito, 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 and I also taught you other things like sui, like it just means water, you would come to understand that naturally. So that's the point of naturally varied review, rather than having someone just repeat something again and again. So you don't become more fluent by repeating after me, you become more fluent as you understand the language better, all right? So the same way a dog would. So if I hold up a ball and show the ball, 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 the dog is like, okay, I kind of get something, but I don't know exactly what's happening here. But if I get a different ball and say ball, and another ball and say ball, and another ball, say ball, I bet very quickly that dog would figure out the word ball means some kind of object like that. And you could easily translate like no, like this is not a ball, not a ball. Or like this is not a ball either, okay? So when you're trying to teach your brain, it's the same idea. Think of your brain as like a dog that you're trying to teach. And if you make the learning easy, then your brain understands faster and more easily, and that's when you start speaking, all right? So just another thing I'll make very clear about this, when you're teaching students, you don't have them try to speak. You have them really understand until they can anticipate what you're going to say. So even if I do something very simple, like just like the past ED form or something, if I say like play, played. Let's see, what's another one? Like placed, placed, you know, something like that. If I take some basic verbs and show them that, and now I might, as they understand that and they understand the difference, I might give them an irregular verb like, oh, look, wait, go, went. And their brain is going to think, oh my goodness, like that's interesting how we have something that's a different example of that. All right, but that's how you do it. So depending on whatever the grammar point is, you're really trying to help them understand something in context in English, rather than using these other things up here like a textbook or trying to give them a translation or a long explanation of something. You really want to show people how the language works, and it's actually quite easy to do if you give people good examples. All right, Bogdan says, what is the difference between American and Australian accents? Well, rather than just explaining a difference, it's better to just listen to some differences in how people speak. So I have a friend, actually the guy, I got this from a friend of mine, he's from New Zealand, and so he speaks a little bit differently, and it's better actually Master English Conversation or Fluent for Life in the Master English Conversation sets. In that program, you will see he's in one of the lessons, actually. And we're talking about, I think we're talking about business, but you can hear the differences in the way we sound. And so this is a thing like whether you're in the program or not, the point is to contrast these different things rather than just get like, oh, just trolling. All right, look at that. All right, well, for a lot of people who are not just trolling, that's how they would want to figure that out. So that is actually a legitimate question that people have. All right, let's see. And Fabricio says, hi, everyone from Brazil. Zoe says, hello. Good to see you again. Sorry, greetings. It's all right. Elder says, sup, Drew, just in time. Let's learn some English with you this morning. I'm all ears. Glad to hear it. Elvis says, hi, guys. From China, Beijing's sound. Look at that. And those are some little cats or something. It's interesting to see the emojis that are around now. And Chia says, is this real? Oh no, well, is that ChatGPT asking me if I'm real? That's interesting. Let's see. JetBlue, wow, JetBlue is watching us over here. Hey everyone from Egypt to all. Leo says, why don't you do lives with slides? That would be more interesting. Give a try. Yeah, listen, I haven't tried that. Maybe I will try that in the future. But yeah, I just for the setup I have here, maybe I will try something different with some stuff like that. But often the point of doing the video this way is that so you can actually see examples of me responding spontaneously in a conversation. So if I make a video with a slide presentation, the way I speak would actually be different. So I would be talking about something, I would give an example, and you can, if you watch my videos, like the videos where it's me like this, just talking, rather than, or as opposed to the videos where I write a script and I'm reading that, it's a different way of speaking. And more people need, I mean, I suppose I could do both, really, but you know but that's the basic idea is trying to maintain that spontaneity. So giving people examples of how I get a question and here's how you would respond to that. But yeah, it's something interesting to try. Harvey says, hi everyone. Rinku says, now I have to leave this class for my school. Oh no, well you can come back and watch it later. Ali says, hi, can't wake up my dog for this class. She is a lazy bone. Yes, you would say she is a lazy bone. Let's see, Abner says, the good way to teach the dogs by food, just act the action and put food in your hand. When it does the same, give him the food. Yeah, there you go. So your brain is operating in the same way. And the point is, for this video, if you explain like whatever the action is, like you put your hand out and the dog is like, well, what am I supposed to do? So you have to maybe pick up his foot and put it on your hand if you want the dog to shake, or you want the dog to do like every, you know, whatever the particular thing is. Let's see. Noman says, I am happy to watch live now. Cam says, sorry, I'm late. Bogdan said, okay, I got that one already. Thanks a lot, teacher. What if the grammar point is reported speech? Well, then in that way, you're like, let's say I'm talking about reported speech. You would first think, I mean, the basic idea is to get you as a teacher thinking about how you would explain this in your native language. So imagine, you know, we're going to forget about English for a moment, but just talking whatever your native language is. Let's just say it's Arabic, for example. If I'm thinking, how do I teach another person, like an Arabic speaking person, what is reported speech? And I would just do that. I don't speak Arabic, but basically I would like here's me like talking about something I said. So right now I'm describing something about myself, but I could also talk about something I heard from someone else. So instead of like I said, you know, like I'm like whatever, I have a blue marker. So I have a blue marker. I have a blue marker. I have a blue marker. Now I could also talk about like saying someone else said they have a blue marker, or he said I have a blue marker. All right. So if we're talking about any kind of difference about another person saying something, or my mom told me, there are different ways I could describe that, but that's how you would do it. So again, making sure people understand the context of the situation, rather than, we don't begin by saying, hey class, today we're going to talk about reported speech. If I go up to people on the street in America and say, can you tell me what reported speech is? They will probably talk about the news or something like that. So like most people don't know what that means, and we don't really want to get them thinking about a grammar term, again, like talking about like the logic of it or a linguistic explanation of what something is. We just want to help people understand why we're doing something, what is actually happening, what is the situation. And so in this case, they said, I have a blue marker. So a friend of mine is talking, he has a blue marker, like he told me that, and then I can say that, or I could, and again, I could phrase it in different ways, like he said, so he said something, or he told me, he told me, or I just heard. So I heard would be if I don't know who the person is, or I don't want to say who the person is, this is just a secret, someone told me. So someone told me, or someone said this, or I heard something. So there are different ways you can do this. And again, I'm trying to give you just different examples. I could go into even more detail about it. But if I'm trying to help some students understand this idea, you continue to go until you look at them the same way you look at a dog, and the dog is like, I got it. I understand what you're saying. So if I show a dog a few different balls, and then I say like, I'm trying to point like is this a ball? And the dog is like, yes, like I understand what you're saying. So even if the dog can't speak to me, I can understand. It's easy to look in a dog's eyes and see if they understand, just like I can look at students' eyes and see if they're bored or they're confused about something or they're angry, whatever. All right, so I want to continue explaining something and basically give lots of varied examples to help them understand without me needing to explain the logic of something like that. So another way to think about this is, how would I explain it to a child? So if I'm talking to my own kids, my children are 9 years old and 5 years old, and I say, oh, like I said this, or I'm just talking with them like I have a blue marker, I have a sage green shirt, a sage green shirt. Or I could say, well, your mother said this, or your grandfather, or your friend, or they said, or I heard, something like that. Okay, so the key is to try to make a situation understandable, give lots of varied examples, say maybe here are some different ways that people might express that, because there are many different ways, and that's a big problem with regular teaching, is like when you look at a book like this, and it's like, here's like up you go, and we have one way to do that, or one way to say this in Maori. There are probably many ways to say that in Maori. And just in the same way, there would be many ways to say that in English. So if I'm talking about having a dog go up some stairs, I could say up you go, or I could say go up, or please go up, or that way. There are different ways I could express that, and typically a native is hearing all these different versions, and that's the value, or one of the many values, of naturally varied review. So it prepares you to hear all of these different ways of speaking. Again, like he said, or he told me, or I heard, all of those are correct ways and common ways that you will hear people expressing this idea. Let's see. And then Leo says, that's why YouTube doesn't publish the live much, I think. I have no idea why YouTube may publish or not publish, or tell people or not tell people. I don't know if me not having advertising on the YouTube videos is an issue. So maybe if I put ads on my videos, YouTube will show them more. Maybe, I don't know. It could be I'm bad at what I do, maybe, I don't know. It's interesting to think about that, like why, like some of these live videos, they go very viral. People like the idea, and some of them, it could be a good idea or a bad idea or whatever, but it just kind of depends on the mood, I suppose. But that's often how my YouTube channel is, so I don't know. Tiago says, what's up, bro? I like to be an English teacher. Do you have some tips? Well, it's basically this. If you're trying to teach people, just help them understand the language without needing their native language. If you can do that, then you will be a good teacher. And it also, I am thinking about thinking about what my goal is. My goal is to help people speak. And in order to do that, I need to make sure people are 100% confident about the vocabulary they're learning. So if people don't quite understand something, then I need to explain it in a different way. But this is like the last thing I want to do, like to give a definition or a translation or something. So even if I'm speaking with a Japanese person, if I'm trying to help them speak, I could give them a translation, but it would probably be worse for them because they'll think about that translation when they speak. I remember I was working on a book actually for Japanese learners of English, and it was a whole bunch of mnemonics to remember vocabulary for the first level of the, what name is that? It's like the English language proficiency exam or something like that. It's a specific, what are they? Now I forget the name of it. Anyway, it's just an English test common in Japan. And it's got these different levels. And I had written or created all these mnemonics, but like that book would be helpful for people remembering the test, but it would be less helpful because it would train them to think in English before they speak. And so like, you know, these are the kind of things I think about. But the goal, again, in general, is to make sure if you want to help people speak rather than, you know, you're just trying to teach whatever, like it's easy to give people some vocabulary and maybe they will remember some of that. But the more difficult thing to do is to actually help people understand English in English and get them fluent. So that's the job of the teacher. That's what I do. But it depends on what your goals are. But if you're looking for specific tips, I made a video about how to teach English as a first language or how to teach English in English. I think it's one of those names. Let's see. And Abdo says, "Tell me, teacher, please, what the difference between increase, increasing, and increasingly." Well, those are just like the difference between it's like the difference between an adverb and an adjective. So if I'm talking about like, as an example, and this is something you can also like search on our channel. If I'm talking about moving, like I threw a ball, or I'm running, just very simply, like I am running. So here's me, kind of running, I guess. That's me moving that way. I'm working hard over here. I'm running. So if I want to talk about how I'm running, I could say like I run quickly. So I'm describing the way I run. So I could run slowly. I could run quickly, I could run, I don't know, I could describe that in different ways. But like this is the thing we're talking about, how as you get the examples, you see that this thing is just describing the way I run. And so if you're trying to teach this to students, we begin with I run. All right, so they understand like it's a person doing an action. And then the contrast comes where you start showing different examples. And it's even easier. I don't have a lot of space to run around, but let's say I'm something I could show you right here that's a little bit easier on the screen. So if I do I write. So I write sloppily. All right, sloppy writing. So it's sloppy writing, S-L-O. So sloppy writing, but it is sloppily done. So I am doing it in a sloppy way. All right, so is the writing itself sloppy, or am I describing the action? All right, so as we're trying to build like a network in our mind of how vocabulary works. So we start with a verb, a very basic action, I write. And then, okay, here's a way of describing that. Like I write quickly, I write. So let's see, we've got quickly over here, we've got slowly, we've got neatly. So like an opposite to in a sloppy way, I could write in a neat way. That's another way you could describe this. All right, so see, as I'm getting these, you understand what right means. It becomes a stronger understanding of the word right, but you also understand here, like, oh, this is how an adverb works, without me explaining using logic or linguistic, definitions or something. Like, okay, class, today we're going to learn about adverbs. All right, I wouldn't talk about that. The only reason I use the word adverb is just so people understand like if you want to look up more information about what that particular grammar point is. This is how you would show that thing. So an adjective, maybe it's like a way to contrast like a person and how they are. So he is a happy person or a sad person or something like that. So we begin with, here is a person, and we have like a happy person and a sad person and an angry person. You can see those different examples. And without me explaining what an adjective is, you naturally come to understand what the meaning is and how to use it fluently. All right? So you don't get that from me giving you an explanation. You get that understanding from me giving you lots of examples. And that builds a network in your mind of all these different examples, and that's how you develop that sense of fluency. All right? So fluency comes from your understanding and you being able to connect these different things. So here I understand, look, I can describe a person doing something. I write, or I play, or I go, or I do something. But I could be more specific, and I could show you, like I am writing very slowly. So I write slowly, or I write quickly, or I write very neatly. Or in my case, you can say I draw badly. All right, so my pictures are not very good. I draw badly, or I'm drawing in a sloppy way, or sloppily. So when you're looking for those examples, you want to start off with something very simple, very clear, and then work up to those other ones and give different contrasting examples so people understand what's happening, rather than you trying to just like give a definition or a translation of that thing. Okay, so I wouldn't mention anything about that. Maybe at the end of the lesson I would say, this is an adverb. Like we call this an adverb if you want to, whatever that thing is. But helping people understand it if you're trying to get them to speak. Often teachers are not trying to get people to speak because they don't need to speak to pass a test in school. So a lot of people don't know about this way of teaching because they don't need to know about that. So I call this like the strangest fluency secret, because people think you need to talk to get fluent, but really you just need to understand the language better. So it's like the opposite way of thinking about it than what most people do. All right, hopefully that makes sense. So if you're like, I don't want to go into even more detail about like the other things, but hopefully you can see how we would take a word like increase or something and then teach it in different ways. Just seeing it used in those different situations would help you understand it very well. Let's see, Bogdan says, is Frederick the best app for practicing the phonics? I certainly think it is. I haven't found anything better. That's why I made it. Otherwise, I would have just used something else, because it was a real pain in the ass to make that app. But yes, if you want to teach yourself and understand phonics, get Frederick. Just click on the link in the description below to get it. And if you have any questions about it, let me know. Prasanna says, hi, sir. Nice to see you. Why don't you show us 3-pen Japanese language? Oh, you mean my Japanese lesson? So this is the same kind of idea. Now, if I'm trying to teach Japanese to a dog, I would do the same thing. I'm going to say like marker, marker, marker. Or in Japanese, it's actually basically the same word, maka, maka, maka. これは赤ね、赤いマーカー、黒いマーカー、青いマーカー。このシャツは緑のシャツね。緑、赤、黒、青いマーカー、黒いマーカー、赤いマーカー、緑のシャツね。このシャツがね、緑です。All right. So if I'm looking at different examples, I don't want you to speak. I want you to listen to me and help you understand the language very well. And as you start getting more examples, like if I have like aoi maka, hora, ao, you understand like, oh, he's talking about the color. And even if the shade of the color is slightly different, it's basically the same thing. Hora. 見て、黒いね、黒い水筒、黒いマーカー、黒いマーカーね、このマーカーはね、この水筒は黒、 kudo, kudo. As you hear those examples, and with my Japanese pronunciation, it's a little bit harder to hear. Like in the English, it would be more like kuro, kuro. But this R sound in English is not in Japanese. All right. Anyway, you get to see the definition by understanding in context rather than me giving you a translation. And when you discover the vocabulary meaning this way, you really remember it more, you feel more confident, you are more motivated, and you really understand the language better. Yeah, kuroi ne. So I don't know if it's the same kanji, like the same character for that in Chinese. I think it might be. Kudo. Let's see. Kudo. So my Japanese is sloppy as well. All right, let's see here. So let's see, I feel I am a time traveler because the last time I heard about your daughters was when they were 7 and 3 years old. Well, yes, actually you can be a time traveler and go through the YouTube videos and actually see. I've not had my younger daughter, Noelle, on any of the videos, I think, but Aria has been. So Aria actually you could see Aria when she's just born at the hospital. Leo says, you are a good man. Well, I try. Thank you, Leo. Slip Cout, Slip K or Slip K out. My dog is asking for freedom and NASCAR. Thanks for the tips. Excellent. Antonio says, hi, Drew. Understand you and other native 100%, but why I cannot understand other natives like Tony Robbins. The basic idea or the basic reason is that people they will speak differently and they will use different vocabulary. So you might learn a way of speaking. As an example, you might learn to say hello in an English class. So the teacher says hello and the student says hello and you practice that. But in the real world, people might say, hey, what's up? How's it going? Where you been? How's the family? How's everything? These are all different ways that people might greet each other in English. Oh, long time no see. It's been a while. How you been? Or how have you been? Doing well? How's the family? All right, how's work? How's life? How's it hanging? You'll hear all of those different things, and that's part of the problem. So you've got you can think of this gap or this significant difference between, we'll just make this a little classroom here. So we have some students in the classroom here. They usually learn one way to speak. So they learn one example, how to say one thing, like what is a greeting, like I just gave you the example of that. So a greeting in English, or they might like how do you say, how do I go to the bathroom, or something like that. But it's typically one way of saying these different expressions. And the teacher will have a clear, slow voice. It's easy to understand what they're saying. But over here in the real world, there are the big problem with real communication is unpredictability. Unpredictability. Let me see if I can spell that. So to predict something, predict. When you predict something, it means you know what's going to happen. All right? And people love predictability. But we cannot predict things in conversations because each conversation is unique. Each person will speak with a slightly different accent, or they will have a, faster speech or whatever, or less clear, something like that. So real communication is unpredictable. So it's harder to know exactly what people are going to say. And that's why a teacher like me in this context, so when I'm speaking right now in a lesson like this, I'm going to speak more clearly, a little bit more slowly, and not use a bunch of difficult vocabulary that I'm not explaining. So if I'm going to teach you something like some new vocabulary, I will make sure you understand it. And I sometimes take time to do that. But in the real world, it's full of unpredictable speech. So you don't know what people are going to say, how people are going to say it, whatever the particular example is. but that's the difference. So natives speak differently than most people do in a kind of lesson video format like this. Let's see. Yes, and Joseph Alexander says, nobody asked for this stream, but we all needed it. There you go. How true it is. And it looks like, is that a dog? Look at that. And it's a dog in your, maybe, is that your dog or just some dog? But there you go. Now you can learn some English or for your dog and teach your dog some English. All right, I really love your channel. It reminds me of the classroom in high school. Oh no, well, I don't know if that's a good thing or not. Hopefully you had a good teacher in high school then. Let's see, slow that again. Jokes apart, you would say, typically this expression here is like jokes aside. Jokes aside. And I understand what you're saying, but the expression is jokes aside, and let me help you understand why. So typically when we have, like, let's say we have a bunch of things up on here. Let me see if I have some, oh, I do. I have actually some magnets that I can grab. So this is a really good example. So jokes aside, so you said jokes apart. So jokes apart, that would mean like we're kind of taking something, like if we're talking about apart, we want to maybe like split it into different pieces or something like that. So to split something apart. Like if I have this marker and I break it apart, so I'm turning it into different parts. So to break something or put something apart. But when we're talking about putting something aside, maybe we have all these little magnets over here. I'm actually just moving them all out of the way. So that's why we would say jokes aside. So I'm kind of like, you know, we're going to move the jokes away for the moment and talk seriously for a moment. So that's why we have something like jokes aside, or you could say all joking aside. So that's the idea here is like moving something out of the way. Like if I have a table with a bunch of stuff on it. So I've got my, I don't know, some toys on the floor or some plates on a table or something like that. Oh, let me move those plates aside so that we can do something over here. Okay? So that's where we get this expression like all joking aside or jokes aside, comma, you know, whatever else you're talking about. Hopefully that makes more sense now. But if it does, then you should be thinking like, oh, like actually the vocabulary is clear. I understand why we use like all jokes aside rather than like all jokes apart, because we're not like splitting something into different sections. We're literally clearing them out of the way. Okay. All right, let's see what else we've got here. So I became fluent in English and your channel helped me a lot. So thank you for your effort. Glad to hear it. If you know other people we can help, please share the video and let them know. All right, let's see. Leo says, if to fish is a verb, why do I have to say go fishing and not to go fish? Well, I could go doing lots of things. Like I could go eat, I could go play. It's kind of combining the two activities. So if I am, typically we think of like it's one thing of going, like we're moving to some other place to go do an activity. So we go, play. And here, again, the naturally varied review of seeing the different situation helps you understand it better. So let's say we have like play. So if I'm just talking about playing, it usually means I'm doing something right here. So I could play guitar, I could play some video games, I could play chess, I could play, I don't know, play the piano even, just using this word to play. And it means I'm doing something right here, right now. So I am playing, all right? So I'm playing a game or playing something. But if my mom says, why don't you go play? She's typically meaning we're combining go with this, and we're talking about like going to some other location and doing the activity. So in this case, like go play at the park. So my mom and I are at home right now. She says, why don't you go play outside? All right, so maybe I'm already playing in the house. I'm playing right now. She says, oh, go play outside. All right, so I could go read at the library. I could go eat at a restaurant. So it's a different place. We're just combining the motion with the activity because we're going to do it someplace else. All right, so that's why we do that. So if I could say go fishing, or I could even just say go fish, like tomorrow I will go fish, like, you know, at somebody's place, whatever. All right. So, but I mean, kind of conversationally, we talk about like, you know, to go fishing. We just use it that way. But this is why we talk about fishing. Like, let's say I'm at my house. Here's my fishing pole, and I'm trying to catch some fish right here at my house. Or, so right now I'm fishing, or I could go fishing and usually go to some other place like a pond or a lake or a river or something like that. All right. Hopefully that's clear. Getting some good examples for everyone here. But do let me know if that doesn't make sense. So you could say like go fish, but we don't typically say like go to play. I mean, you could say that, or go to fish, but like part of the reason in this is the context. Just to make this clear, if I say go to fish, just by itself, I only say go to fish, and I don't explain anything or help you understand that. That could mean like this is me over here, and I'm going to maybe walk or move to a fish over here. So go to a fish. That would mean like I'm kind of like walking to a fish, like going from this location to this location over here. So it's a little bit different, and I think often just to make this a little bit clear, like we would just say go play or go fish, or even just go fishing. So like I could go to play at my friend's house, or I could go to fish at a river, but conversationally it's usually easier and more clear, or we just say it's kind of easier to understand if I just say go fishing. So I will go do a particular thing, but it's easier to understand if you compare it with other verbs. Let's see now. And did I like skip some of these up here? Oh, I think I got those already. All right. And let's see, Don Machiavelli. Let's see, you got Machiavelli here. I understand that to make the language comprehensible so I could speak it better, and I've included that approach in all my activities of learning and did that for a good solid. There you go. How does this, yeah, you are right, teacher. Thank you for your efforts. Don again continues. Oh, so let's see. A solid time that I've ignored speaking itself for a long time. I'm kind of worried that all the concentration on understanding it better rather than speaking would come with contrary results. So my question here is, should I keep concentrating here on understanding and not worrying about speaking, although it is exhausting process? I don't know how exactly you're learning. Let's see, understand and speak at the same time, you know, like back and forth. Yeah, so typically, to make this clear for everyone, yes, you want to be learning something until you understand it, and then you can speak. So you have kind of understanding and then speech, and then you go to something else. You understand it more, and then you can say that thing. Okay? So I don't mean like only listen for years and years and never speak. The point of understanding is just to give you the confidence to speak. So if you feel confident about saying something, great, that's the goal. So you understand something until you speak. So this way is in contrast to the typical thing of like not understanding, and then we try to speak a lot, which doesn't really help people, okay? So if it's like, we'll just put like NU for not understanding, and then we're gonna try to repeat things or speak a lot when people don't really actually improve. But this way, it's a kind of back and forth process for different things. So you become fluent in things as you understand them, and then you can use this information to learn new things. So your process, or your progress accelerates, so it gets faster over time. But this is how it works. So the point is not to just stay quiet for no reason, but the point is more, we want to continue to understand something until we understand it well enough that we have confidence. That's the point. So if you don't have confidence about something, don't force yourself to speak, just get more examples of that thing. But it shouldn't feel like an exhausting process. It should actually feel worse to not understand something and then try to repeat that again and again. That should be the more frustrating and painful process. So yes, we want to understand something, then speak, understand something, then speak. And if you can understand something very quickly, which is my job, I try to make things understandable as quickly as possible. If you can do that, then you will start speaking faster, all right? And then you just apply this same idea to other things. So whatever that is, you learn something and you want to try to speak as quickly as possible, that's great, that's the goal. So you don't have to force yourself to not speak for a long time. Bogdan says, how many languages do you speak? Just English and Japanese. And Phil with the kudoi there. Jefferson says, hello, teacher. Sir, you are very good as a teacher. Well, I'm glad to hear it. If you know other people, we can help. Let's see, Phil again says, sir, how to use present participle. What do you mean by that? So again, another thing, like someone was asking about like adverbs or whatever before, but think about I really want people to understand things in a particular situation. So rather than trying to think like abstractly about logic or a linguistic principle, like what is the thing you were trying to express? Or give me a specific phrase or sentence and I can help you understand that better. So just so you can understand, like, I can get you thinking more in that way rather than thinking about a particular grammar point like that. See, teacher, the way you talk is as normal as you talk in your daily routine. No, it's a little bit different. So remember, I'm speaking to a particular group of people right now that might not understand a lot of difficult vocabulary or cultural references or things like that. So I'm not going to use that vocabulary when I speak. But if I talk with another friend of mine, like the guy I got this book from, so he and I, we have a lot in common. We know a lot of, history and, movie references and things like that. So we can use that in our conversations. And so people in Fluent for Life can actually see how that works and how I speak differently depending on who I'm speaking with. Let's see, Wisley again says, hi, Drew. Miami says, or maybe that's Miami. Thank you for the lecture with some examples. Glad to hear it. Finn Part says, what does as an aside mean? So again, same idea. Like if I'm talking about a main idea, I might say like as an aside, like here's this other idea over here that may be connected with that or maybe not, but it's just some additional information. You might hear as an aside in a meeting. So if someone says, like we're talking about this, tomorrow we have a lecture from someone at our church or something, as an example. So like there's a meeting about something, tomorrow we will do this. I forgot also, as an aside, we also have a party next week. All right, so there's the main thing we're talking about, and aside from that, so it's like off to the side, maybe next to that, or related to that. So aside from that, this is again, like it's a really useful word, but when you understand why people are using it, they physically mean like moving something out of the way, but we can use it in a figurative way like this. So aside from this other thing, like, do you have any other questions? So maybe people have no questions about the main topic, but aside from that, do you have any questions about something like that? All right. Let's see. And Michael says, greetings from Uruguay. And let's see. Can I say go to read? I mean, use to. Yeah, you can. So you can say like, I want to I might go to read at the library, or I could just say go read at the library. So it's not logically or grammatically incorrect to say that. It's because you could go to do anything. It just means you're moving from one place to another. But conversationally, people will remove that too, because it's not necessary. People understand what you're talking about. So if I'm going to read at the library, like I'm going to work at the library, I'm going to play at the park, I could use all of those. Or I could just say I'm going to, I don't know, I could, like, for some of those things, it's so obvious what you're gonna do, like to go read, or go play, or go eat, or go whatever. Like you could use those. So it's not grammatically incorrect to use that though. In grammar rules, it is right to use go play, or it's just kind of informal. No, you can say that. It's correct. Does the word bite have the same pronunciation whether as a verb or a noun? Yeah, it would be the same. It's the same. Let's see, Jefferson says, Professor, your classes with examples on your board are very good. Glad to hear it. Jerry says, I'm Jerry. I have good listening level, but still speaking. No, have it better progress. I still know what I am say myself now. Yeah, it sounds like you don't yet know the language very well. So this is what you will find for people. They can't express things very well, so they will have lots of mistakes like this, and they don't have confidence about what they want to say. So you should spend more time with your vocabulary. Spend more time understanding things, and then you will speak more confidently and fluently. Woody Sage says, hello, teacher. I want to know how to start when I claim my opinion about some topic. Like, in my opinion, I think, I guess. Yeah, those are all fine. You could say, in my opinion, or I think, or I guess. And Iahor says, I am Cameron from Pakistan. I listen to you and shadow your accent, so they're here. People ask me, have you ever been in an English-speaking country? Well, very nice. So remember, it's nice to shadow what I'm saying, but you really should also be shadowing native speakers, or even if you watch the conversation videos on our channel. So if you watch those, you will see more examples of me speaking in a more natural way, like how I would speak with other natives. All right, I think people, looks like we got to the end. Look at that, fantastic. So this was kind of an odd video, certainly a weird topic. I know people might be thinking like, well, I don't have a dog or whatever. I don't have a dog either. But the point is, if you can teach your brain the same way you would teach a dog, and try to give your brain limitations. So even if I can use a textbook, it's probably better if I don't use one. If I can get good examples that help me understand things all in English, I will understand the language quite easily that way. All right, so spend your time as you're trying to learn. The goal is to understand things well and then use them after you felt confident. All right, so if you don't feel confident about something, get more examples of it until you really feel confident, then you will speak. All right, so the fluency is developed as you get lots of understanding, you really feel confident, as you erase any doubt that you have, and that's when you'll start speaking. If you'd like to learn more, you can click on the links in the description to learn more about Fluent for Life and Frederick. But if you have any questions, you can also email us at info@englishanyone.com. Have a fantastic day, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.